So far away, Lucas, and the lovely audience at home, are you ready for another episode of Wiki Weekends?
I mean, I am. I don't know about the audience at home. I hope so if they've clicked on this video.
Well, I'm hoping that they have clicked on this video, Lucas, because they already know what we're going to talk about, but you don't. So, Lucas, are you ready to talk about the 2016 Suicide Squad movie?
It's been a great episode, Karl. I'll see you later.
So as per usual, a link to the wiki we're reading from can be found below. But before we get into the meat of today's video, Lucas, what do you remember about the flaccid, wet fart of a film that was the 2016 Suicide Squad movie?
Well, of course we have to mention #release the IO code.
Which we will get to because it's listed on the Wikipedia page. So we're referring to the Wikipedia page for this one.
Yeah, I remember that they released a trailer which got good feedback because it basically tried to copy a Guardians of the Galaxy vibe.
So
and then they
desperate, yeah.
sent that team that made the trailer to re-edit the entire movie.
Really, really bad.
Which we will no doubt get to, yes. But I don't think I've ever seen a movie that is trying so hard to ape the success of something else. Like, so to the point where they just hired the guy. So people don't know, Guardians of the Galaxy was really popular. So popular that when they were editing the Suicide Squad, there was like a leaked memo from like the higher ups at like Warner Bros. Who told the people making Suicide Squad, Guardians of the Galaxy has pop music in it. You put pop music in your movie, that's a thing people like in superhero movies. Mm-hmm. Not realizing that, no, they like pop music and music in movies when it's thematically appropriate and makes sense in the context of the story. But they didn't realize that, so they said, fuck it, jam it full of pop songs.
Come and get your love. Come and get your... Oh, yeah. Hey.
So he's an idiot. Yeah.
Yeah, they didn't get the memo of like, James Gunn actually thought this through.
Mm-hmm. And have you watched the movie at all, like recently? Because yesterday I watched the new Suicide Squad movie directed by James Gunn again. So as just like, you know, a little exercise to see how much, like, though it improved upon, like, you know, I said, the wet fart that was the 2016 one. The first 5 minutes is like, it is exhausting. Like, you are just bombarded by it's so visually like ugly, and you are, I think there's like 5 different pop songs within the first 5 minutes.
Yeah, and to clarify, like, for whatever reason I haven't got around to it, but like I haven't watched the Suicide Squad, the James Gunn movie.
It's real good.
I didn't get a chance to watch it in cinemas. I can't remember exactly why, but something stopped me going to BLT at cinemas, and I've like wanted to watch it, but it hasn't been available on the streaming service that I subscribe to yet. Okay. So I've not got around to it, and I've heard really good things. I'm excited to watch that movie, but yeah, I've watched Suicide Squad like 2016 or whatever. Once in the cinema, and then once afterwards again, and it was worse than I even remembered.
It is horrendous.
And then
yes.
I haven't seen the Suicide Squad or is it Peacekeeper or something?
Peacekeeper is... The reason I want to mention this so I can talk about how much better the new one is, and Peacekeeper is so good. Like, there's just like... I had no idea... I know that argument of like, oh, who's the best wrestler turned out? It's John Cena. Like, he is so funny in that. I know Dave Bautista is like, he's got a lot of range, but John Cena is just so consistently fucking hilarious. Like, there's just like a little bit in Peacekeeper that put me on my ass. And it's where like Peacekeeper has like a little eagle on his gun. And he's like, well, my guns have to have my symbol on them. I'm the Peacekeeper.
Where's the Dove of Peace?
The what?
The Dove of Peace, my trademark. It's engraved on all my weapons, my tomahawk, my sword, my blow darts, my pistol.
And they give him like a big sniper rifle. It's like, where's the eagle? And it's like, well, there's no eagle on there. I don't have time. He goes, fine, I'll do it myself. And he tries to draw an eagle on with a Sharpie. But he just fucks it up. But they don't cut away and they show him just try to draw it. And you can see from like the first line, it's not going to look good. But he, like, bless him, he does it all the way. And then they just show his face and he goes, fuck! And just the way he delivers that fuck is so on point. Like, you can feel the frustration and just, you see him do it, and you can see that when he's halfway through, it's not going to go well, but he commits. He commits to drawing the shitty, like, broken wing eagle facing the wrong way.
And that's the thing, is it is so strange, because both John Cena and Batista have become, like, you know, these funny, charismatic characters on screen. And then you look at, like, the void of personality that is The Rock. It's like, what went wrong?
Well, I think the big thing is that The Rock, he's very nice in real life. Like, you never hear a bad story about him in real life, but he absolutely refuses to ever be portrayed as anything other than a hero. With the rare exception of very early in his career. Like, Johnny did, like, the Scorpion King, and he's the villain of that.
No, he's the hero of that, Karl.
To be fair, he's the best part of the film. Well, like, do you know, like, he got, like, a special cut of that movie that was just him. Like, a literal... Joey's in that film for, like, 4 minutes.
Yeah.
He had them send him a cut of that film with just him in it. So I think it's just ego. He doesn't want to be the bad guy. He doesn't ever want to be shown not to be super strong. Whereas John Cena doesn't give a shit. And, like, you know, when he's in, like, the Suicide Squad movie, like, he's one of the best parts of it because every line he says is just so dumb.
Come in, Adrian.
How did you know it was me?
You knock in a very annoying way.
Yeah, and it is that thing of, like, the ego of it all, as you say, and it's like, it seems that's why, obviously, him and Vin Diesel famously, like, clashed on set, because Vin Diesel also has, like, a high level of ego to the point where, like, you know, he can't be not shown as this super-powered being in Fast and Furious. Weird that that guy is also Groot, because, like, it seems as though he's completely out of ego with Groot, but then you hear stories about Fast and Furious, and it's like, it's weird.
Yeah, if people don't know, Vin Diesel, like, infamously just has such a massive amount of control with the Fast and Furious franchise, to the point where I think his sister is an executive producer. And every time they try and put something in one of the movies where his character not even looks bad, he's just portrayed as not being, like, just this
Superman, basically.
Superman. Like, you know, like, to the point where, like, they have a person on set whose job is counting how many punches his character takes to make sure he delivers just as many punches to that guy. But the problem is that The Rock also has the same person doing that, because they have the same thing written into their contract, where they're also not allowed to look too weak. So what happens when those two characters fight? Nothing interesting, because nothing interesting can happen.
Because both of them will not allow themselves to lose in any kind of way.
Or even, not even lose, or just, like, you know, to be shown getting hit and stuff, like, you know, being in pain from being hit. Whereas, like, John Cena doesn't have that ego, and, like, when he's in the Peacemaker show, he's getting his, like, there is a character in the Peacemaker show called Judo Master.
Okay.
Like, you know, very James Gunn to get his, like, super deep pull, like, who the fuck's Judo Master? And he's this 5 foot tall guy who eats flaming hot Cheetos. And, like, John Cena, like, Peacemaker, when he's like, what the hell is, like, why would I be scared of this guy? He's, like, 2 feet tall. And the gimmick is that every time Judo Master turns up, he just beats the living shit out of everyone and runs away. And it keeps happening, and it never stops being funny.
And one of, like, the only things I've seen about the Peacemaker TV show is, I think it was something you sent, or maybe one of our other friends showed me or something, but it was, like, Peacemaker talking about how he would eat, like, a beach full of dicks to save the world or something.
That's
so, like, you wouldn't ever get The Rock saying that.
So you also have the line as well where it's like, you call yourself Peacemaker, but you shoot people. I would shoot any number of men, women, or children to protect peace.
They call you Peacemaker.
I cherish peace with all my heart. I don't care how many men, women, and children I need to kill to get it.
But anyway, Suicide Squad 2016 is an American superhero film based on the DC Comics supervillain anti-hero team of the same name, produced by Warner Bros. Pictures, Rat Pack, Dune Entertainment, DC Films, and Atlas Entertainment. And here's the thing. The more, like, producers a film or piece of media has, generally the shitter it is. Because it means more people had their fingers in the pie, trying to, like, influence what the eventual tone was going to be.
Yeah, too many cooks.
Yeah. The movie was written and directed by David Ayer and stars an ensemble cast led by Will Smith, Jared Leto. So Jared Leto gets top billing over Margot Robbie, who's listed next.
Really, really
Ike Barinholtz, Scott Eastwood, speaking of voids of charisma, and Cara Delevingne, another void of charisma.
No, I'm surprised you didn't put the words Jai Courtney in there.
Well, that's the thing, yeah. So in that film, you have 1, 2, 3, 4 voids of charisma. So that's Jared Leto, Jai Courtney, Scott Eastwood, and Cara Delevingne. 4 fucking terrible actors, and they're in the main cast.
And somebody who, in this movie, not necessarily other projects, but also Joel Kinnaman.
I mentioned Joel Kinnaman's alright, because in the new one, he's actually funny. Where when James Gunn was directing him, he says, well, initially Joel Kinnaman, like, he was a bit weirded out being, like, a funny guy, because he's not used to playing that, but he did have really good comedic timing. So I think just the fact he's in the sequel, and he's actually pretty funny in that.
Exactly, and that's why I say single out this movie, because I've liked Joel Kinnaman in other things, but as, you know, Rick Flag is it?
Yeah.
In that 2016 Suicide Squad, he's nothing. He is not a character.
No. Joe is really annoying to me as well. Joe, who's not got Bill in there, Karen Fukuhara.
Yeah, as Katana.
Yeah, Katana. Her blade traps the souls of everyone she kills. It might be the worst fucking character introduction. It's so bad.
You're late.
This is Katana. She's got my back.
It's weird as well, like, you know, Karen Fukuhara, who is Kimiko in The Boys, if people can't put the name to a face, but yeah, you watch her as Kimiko and go like, what a good actor. And then again, the most terrible performance in this movie.
It's probably got some of the worst performances out of like everyone listed here, besides like
Margot
Robbie.
Mm-hmm. Who obviously carried this movie and then got the Birds of Prey Harley Quinn movie because of this, and like the only bit of charisma and fun in this movie.
Yeah, like Will Smith also has like a bit of banter, but I'd say in the new one he's basically replaced by Idris Elba, who's way more charismatic.
Mm-hmm.
Especially, like, you know, given everything we've learned about Will Smith after the fact. But then there's as well in the new one. I need to mention the fact because it's James Gunn. He's like, who gives a fuck? Put all the losers in there. He puts Ratcatcher in, who's like a bottom of the barrel, like Z tier Batman villain. But he doesn't even put Ratcatcher 1 in. He puts Ratcatcher 2, and it's like Ratcatcher is the best part of that movie. Like I said, like I watched Suicide Squad. And I went, I would watch a Ratcatcher movie. I would watch a Ratcatcher spin-off. I care more about Ratcatcher than I care about fucking Superman.
I just woke up. I don't function well early in the morning.
My deepest apologies for disturbing you.
It's alright.
Get your ass out here!
That's the thing, is it? Everything I've heard about that movie is not only did they bring back people and get way better performances out of them, like Joel Kinnaman and Jai Courtney and stuff, but like also the fact that they made like Weasel and Ratcatcher like really enigmatic, cool characters.
Oh man, the thing is that they've got like Pete Davidson in that movie, and he's in it for 5. Like, the joke is like they have the bit like it's not a spoiler sake. They call the Suicide Squad. The first thing that happens is everybody dies, and it's like a bunch of massive actors. Well, you have like Nathan Fillion, Pete Davidson, and like they watch it and they all get shot to death instantly, and that's the joke because I think something that James Gunn noted is. It's called the Suicide Squad, and the only member of the Suicide Squad to die in the first one is the guy who's very obviously set up to die.
The one in the entire group that doesn't get the intro.
Yeah, and it's like, it's obvious he's going to die, and it's something that James Gunn said is, why would you make a Suicide Squad movie and then not kill them off like whenever you want? Because, and I think something he got told is, you can kill off anyone you want. Like, DC told him you can kill off anyone, even Harley Quinn.
Because the moment that happened in 2016, where everybody got the CG intro with the, you know, the cool flashy graphics and all that, and the songs, apart from that one character, I can't even remember the name, and obviously they are set up to die, but that not only means that they're set up to die, that nobody else is set up to die because everybody else got the intros.
Yeah, and that's something they got about the that one, where it's like I said, the opening sequence is an introduction, like look at all these cool characters, like, oh, Nathan Fillion, and all that stuff, and just they all get shot to death in 30 seconds, and it's fucking hilarious.
Did anyone check on whether Weasel could swim?
Because you don't expect it.
You expect Harley Quinn's going to make it through, but like it should be everybody else's fair game.
Mm-hmm.
Because it's the Suicide Squad. They are disposable. That's the point.
And one of the things I found out about it after that, I just didn't realise. So I was like, I'm going to talk more about the new one because the new one's way more interesting. But in the new one, like randomly, one of the guys who's in it was like the on-screen reference for King Shark. Because he's like James Gunn's mate, and he's like 6'7". But he's a comedian in real life. And I didn't notice this until I read it up on it and went, hang on a second, I rewatched some scenes, like, yeah, this guy towers, because I thought he was stood up the entire film, and he's not, he's sat down. And he's just like ginormous out of nowhere. And he was the on-screen reference for King Shark.
Was it Stallone that did King Shark?
He did the voice, but the on-screen was like
the
Steve
voice,
Agee, I think it is. But
That's
like,
cool.
we've got to go and talk about like the 2016 ones. Let's talk about the cast. We have Will Smith, and do you remember who Will Smith played?
He is Deadshot.
He's Deadshot. He's an expert marksman and assassin, a mercenary by day and concerned father by night. It seems to be the other way around, shouldn't it? Like, look after your daughter during the day, and when she's asleep, go shoot people. Deadshot is a conflicted criminal who enjoys the hunt, but still tries to do right by his daughter. He was simultaneously offered Suicide Squad and Independence Day Resurgence. Smith opted to portray Deadshot. I'm sure he's happy with that decision.
I mean, did Independence Day really do any better?
No. The thing is, though, like, my favourite bit about like Deadshot being that film is that it has like the Batman cameo, which is like 4 seconds long. And just
I adore that cameo because it implies that Batman waited to do it in front of his daughter.
Yeah, like, that's the thing, that when it gets pointed out, of all the things that Batman would do, I don't think beating up someone in an alleyway in front of their child is that's the one thing he'd never do.
It's like Batman waited until he met up with his daughter to beat the shit out of him.
He waits until he specifically wants to traumatize the daughter.
It's over, Deadshot. I don't want to do this in front of your daughter.
Then we have Jared Leto as the Joker, a psychopathic crime boss and nemesis of Batman, even though they literally never interact.
Wait, isn't there that one scene where like Batman's driving? No, the Joker's driving the Joker-mobile, and then Batman jumps on top of the car, right?
I think so, yeah, but I think it's like a CGI Ben Affleck.
Yeah.
So Leto described the role as nearly Shakespearean and a beautiful disaster of a character. We got that part right. About portraying the villain, he stated, I took a pretty deep dive, but this was a unique opportunity and I couldn't imagine doing it any other way. It was fun, playing these psychological games, but at the same time, it was very painful. Leto never broke character throughout the filming, with Smith going as far to say he never met Leto. He only met the Joker.
He only met the Joker, who is nothing like the Joker and was just Jared Leto's seeming excuse to just
be a prick.
Be a complete psychopathic prick, yeah.
Did you hear about, like, so people don't know, behind the scenes when they were making the film, like, Jared Leto was like, oh, I'm the Joker, but I'm like, going to be in character all the time. He sent dead rats and used condoms, which is like, don't do that. Mm-hmm. Also, like, people who are like fans of the Joker, but like, Joker has never been a sexual like being or entity in any media. We should like, smash cut to that bit in the animated series where Harley, in like her hottest look, is like, don't you want to ride your Harley, Mr. J? And he's like, get the fuck off me, I want to go like do capers with Batman.
Oh, come on, Puddin'. Don't you want to rev up your Harley? Vroom, vroom.
Yeah, even the character he has some form of relationship with, they're never really shown as being sexualized, other than Joker pretending to sexualize her in order to manipulate her and then move on.
And it's just like, it's just more excuse for Jared Leto to be a weird dickhead to people. But my favourite bit is, he was a dickhead to everyone on set, except for Viola Davis, because Viola Davis's husband said, if you do that shit to my wife, I will beat the fuck out of you, and Jared Leto didn't do it.
And guess what? The Joker would then single out Viola Davis and only pick on her.
Yeah, so that's what I mean. He was in character right up until like someone said, if you do this shit to me again, I'll beat the fuck out of you.
There's a reason that Joker goes after Batman constantly. He's looking for an interesting thing to happen.
Well, then we have, speaking of Dr. Harleen Quinzel, portrayed by Margot Robbie, a former psychiatrist at Arkham Asylum, seduced by the Joker to become his crazed partner in crime. Producer Richard Suckle Describe the character as a fan fave, funny, crazy, scary. You can't come up with enough adjectives to describe all the different things you see her do. Robbie described Quinn as one of the squad's most manipulative members, and a relationship with Joker is incredibly dysfunctional. Adding that Quinn is mad about him, like literally mad. She's crazy, but she loves him. And it's really unhealthy, dysfunctional relationship, but an addictive one. And let's give big props to Margot Robbie right now for doing most of her own stunts.
Oh, right, cool.
Very, there's an elevator fight scene which she did for us. Like, she's famous for always trying to do a lot of her own stunts. And in the Suicide Squad sequel, there's a bit where she has to free herself from some chains with basically she gets a key and then puts it all the way above her head.
Because she learned a bunch of the aerial ribbon stuff, didn't she? Yeah.
And it's James Gunn would say, I was really pissed off because she did it for real, but when she's doing it, she's wearing a dress and it falls over her head, so it looks like we try to cover up it's a stunt actress. And no, Robbie did it for real.
That's a shame, yeah, because that's really cool.
And speaking of being in character, did you see the thing she did for the Barbie movie?
Maybe? Nothing springs to mind right now.
So she stayed in character as Barbie throughout filming and bought everybody on set a present every day. Every day she brought Ryan Gosling a present. And Ryan Gosling would be quoted saying why does no one ever talk about when people method act as a nice person?
I saw as well, just on TikTok, I think it was. There was a controversy because Ryan Gosling and Simu Liu were on the red carpet, giving each other shit and a bit of a bit of back talk, and it's but the point is that they're rivals in the movie and that they were playing up to it.
Yeah.
And it's big controversy. They hate each other. It's they're just acting up to what their roles are in the film for the sake of the red carpet.
Speaking of acting, we have Viola Davis, the government official who gives out the squad's orders. Ambitious and devious, she has a big plan and intends to let no meta-human or military protocol get in her way. And she is one of the best parts of the movie.
Viola Davis is good, and Margot Robbie, again, the best part of a bad movie, but yeah, Viola Davis is a really strong part as well, and I think it's one of those moments where, oh yeah, she's Amanda Waller.
Yeah, that's the thing. She is probably the best person to play that character. And Davis stated she is fascinated by the character, singling out her psychology and strength, describing her as a powerful black woman, ready to pick up a gun and shoot anyone, which she does in that film, where she just shoots all her own people with perfect headshots.
Never forget that Batman is afraid of Amanda Waller.
Everyone's afraid of Amanda Waller.
You don't fuck with Amanda Waller.
There's a reason they call her the fucking Wall.
Who are you people?
That's a national security matter. And if I were you, I wouldn't probe the situation too closely, rich boy.
The thing is, though, Karen Fukuhara is, listed after the guy who played Slipknot. And the guy who plays Slipknot, his description is a man who can climb anything.
And get his head blown up immediately.
Yeah. And I feel bad for Karen Fukuhara as well, because she said they wanted to make a Katana movie, and I was on board, but that's not getting made now.
No.
And then additionally, Ben Affleck and Ezra Miller reprise their respective roles of Batman and The Flash.
The Flash is in that movie?
Yeah, he has a cameo role.
Right, yeah. What? I mean, there's so many forgettable things, but I don't forget how much shit Jared Leto gave this movie because he was talking such a big game and then was barely in it, and they cut everything he did. And
my favourite bit about this, we can talk about that now, the marketing and stuff is let's go on to... Do we need to talk about critical response, or should we talk about the spin-off?
It was shit.
Okay, so let's just go straight to the Release the Ayer Cut movement. So, concurrent to the similar #Release the Snyder Cut movement around Justice League, fans also began the Release the Ayer Cut campaign. Calls strengthened following the announcement of Zack Snyder's Justice League in May 2020 due to the success of the Release the Snyder Cut movement. One of the worst things, why give the worst elements of your fan base any sort of indication that you give a fuck about what they think?
And I do want to say that I don't always think that giving fans an actual form of, power is a bad thing. And I think a great example of that is the Sonic the Hedgehog movie.
Yeah.
And people complained loudly enough that they were forced to make a better representation of what Sonic actually is. And the CGI of Sonic looked really good in that movie, regardless of what you think of the movie. But it was a small vocal minority of people that went absolutely crazy and even made the movement artificially inflated via bots. And
it's that thing of like, it completely ruins any discussion of anything to do with DC. Like, discussing DC stuff is completely exhausting online because they just shit up every discussion. Like, there's that new, like, Superman. Like, My Adventures with Superman. That's really fun and wholesome. It's like basically Superman anime, let's go. You can't talk about it online because, like, oh, it's shit. It's not. It's like, fuck off. You got, like, 8 movies.
The only thing I've heard from people who aren't, weirdo Zack Snyder fans about that is...
It's fantastic.
That it's fucking amazing, and it's such a good portrayal of Superman. And the opening starts with, like, in episode 1 or whatever, it's like, he saves the cat from the tree, and he does the Superman thing, and it's like... And then you just get dickheads like, no, it's not the Snyderverse.
It's the same thing like Peacemaker. Like Joe, the Peacemaker show has that phenomenal intro. You've no doubt seen the intro, right?
Yes,
like
the dance,
the Wigwam song, and it's like just the dance, and everyone's like completely serious. And James Gunn's reasoning was, well, I want you to do something funny, so then you never want to skip it. Because I want you to see the credits on screen, because all those people help make this show. And also, it's fun. Why would we not do something fun? It's a fun show, it's a comic book, it's supposed to be dumb. Every other comment that's not someone saying this is amazing, or like the thing is like a Snyder fan saying it's embarrassing that this is in the film.
Would they not just...
They don't like fun.
Well, I was just thinking, should the intro not just be made by AI?
Anyway, so... the following are some notable ideas that Aya would later reveal that were left out of the film, as well as several reshoots and script alterations that took place during post-production. So we have the first 40 minutes of the film were cut with sections, with potentially being used for flashbacks in the film. So there was 40 minutes from the start removed. The third act was changed, with the Joker originally having an influence within it, with the majority of Leto's scenes being omitted from the theatrical cut, which upset Leto. And you know what? I support anything that upsets Jared Leto. Like, known slider into the DMs of under 16-year-olds. Diablo would have originally survived. Harley Quinn, Slipknot, Batman, Enchantress, and Katana originally had larger roles, with Katana having become possessed and attacking the team at one point. Do you know my favourite bit about that? Is that the most obvious fucking, thing that they don't really do anything else? Like, this is Katana. Her soul traps the sword traps the souls of her enemies. Oh no, Enchantress's heart contains her soul. And then they have to re-explain it again later in the movie. Because they know you forgot.
And I will say, I'm literally sitting behind a giant Katana poster on my wall.
She's such a cool character.
Very, very cool character. And I'm so upset with the portrayal of her in that movie. It's such a shame.
Scenes showing Harley and Joker's abusive relationship were cut from the theatrical cut. Saying, oh man. Parts of the original score were replaced with pop songs for the theatrical cut. That's mean they literally cut out the score and put a pop song in.
And it's so horrible, and I hate it when you hear stories like that. It's you hear that in the Super Mario Bros. Movie, it's they were fighting to get more Mario songs in, but they needed to put I Need a Hero in instead, and that at one point they fought against, but the execs wanted to put Jump in the massive spectacle ending. It was meant to be Jump by what's the band?
Van Halen.
Yes, yeah. It was meant to just be Jump instead of an actual Mario song. It's
it's stupid, yeah.
But stop just putting shitty pop songs in.
And then here's my favourite part. The final cut was taken away from Aya and instead handed to a trailer production company.
Oh, they
literally
trailers.
Got a trailer company to cut this movie. And if anyone's wondering why is it all over the fucking place? Because a trailer company, a company that was used to making 3-minute long trailers at the maximum, were asked to cut a 200-minute long movie.
Talk about just a complete misunderstanding of movies and media making in general. Is there is such a difference in art between making a trailer, which yes is a different art form. Yeah. It's a skill, and making a fucking movie.
And it says here that after the fans campaign was launched, Aya would state how his vision was changed due to the success of Deadpool and the negative criticism received by Snyder's Batman vs. Superman. And they turned, and I quote, his soulful drama into a comedy.
And Look, I don't know what kind of movie I was making, but it's hard to argue that a movie filled with reshoots and re-edited by a trailer company is better than what I was imagining. Like, I don't know how good that movie would have been, but it's probably going to be better than the shit show that it came out.
No, because that's the thing as well. You might think, okay, his original vision might have been better. Do you want to see?
I didn't say that. I didn't say that.
Okay, but have you ever seen what his original Joker was going to look like?
Oh God.
So that's the thing. Like, if you're thinking right now, folks, well, maybe he's got a point. Like, maybe his original vision for what, this film was supposed to be would have been better. Lucas, this is what his original idea for the Joker was.
Jesus Christ, how is it worse?
It's worse, yeah. And the picture will be up on screen for the people watching at home, but that was his idea for the Joker. And he released that himself. Yeah. That wasn't a leak. He released that himself, thinking that people would be on board with his vision of, like, here's what my Joker was originally supposed to look like, before they neutered it into what it is now. It's like, it looks worse. It's like
the same with, like, Zack Snyder being, I used the black suit.
Yeah.
Like, okay, it looks bad. Great, cool. You like edgy things. I get it, Zach. But that's the thing, is regardless of whether, like, I don't think Aya's movie would be a good movie. I don't think it would be worth releasing the Aya cut, but I still definitely think it would have been better than cramming it full of pop songs and recutting it to make it a trailer.
I think the easiest way to show, like, he's probably not going to be that good. Like, what's the other superhero movie he made? Like, so the other things he's done besides Suicide Squad were Bright.
Is that the Will Smith one?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the first Fast and Furious movie.
Okay,
which he wrote, but he didn't direct.
Oh, right, okay. I was going to say, like, the first Fast and Furious movie is okay.
Like, he did write Training Day, though, which is a good movie, but it's just that thing of, like, it was shit. Just admit it was bad. That's the thing, like, I get that you're salty that, like, your name's now attached to this thing, but, like, everything he's revealed of, like, oh, it had more Joker in it, you mean the worst part of the film?
Yeah. It's like, maybe he would have made a 3 out of 10 movie a 4 out of 10.
It's like, imagine, like, try to move forward, like, fuck it, this universe it's done, it's destroyed. The Earth has been salted. Let's try and start again. And just every time they try and do anything new, it's just people being like, but we want to see more of the Suicide Squad. It's like, it made us no money. It made no money, it was shit, everyone hated it, let's just move on. It's like, no, but we want to see more. It's like, oh, I feel bad for James Gunn.
We got a good Suicide Squad movie.
Do you know, like, the Suicide Squad 2016 one made 4 times what the sequel did?
I guess just because, like, the branding was destroyed by the first
and that's
movie.
the thing. Like, the breakdown of why it did so poorly at the box office, despite being so better critically received, is that just no one gives a shit.
Yeah.
And one of the little details that I like, Joe, about, like, the vision for the film, one of the things they decided to change following, the 2016 one, in regards to the design of some of the characters, like Harley Quinn's design was dramatically toned down, and the thing that I love about this is made to include her original colour scheme, because she doesn't have her original colour scheme in the 2016 one.
To be fair, though, I do like the Harley look in 2016's film as well. Like, it's a different interpretation, and it isn't the red and black, and I still really like the red and black on Harley, and I even like the Jester design and stuff. But
do you like the
I think it was a cool reinterpretation. I don't like that.
Do you like the little booty shorts?
I think the booty shorts look fine.
Yeah, so
I think it's a good character design in its own separate way, but it doesn't look Harley Quinn.
Yeah, and according, like, when they were like getting Harley Quinn's updated design for the new one, they actually asked Margot Robbie for her input. It's like, is there anything you want me to change about it? It's like, well, I don't like all the Joker references on my character because the Joker sucks. It's like, okay, that's fine. And she wears a jacket that's, I think it says, live fast, die clown. It's like, no, live fast, die Joker. But that was originally going to say world's best grandpa on it, which I think is good. But then there's another one where she has a tattoo on her face that says rotten. And they remove that, and that was removed at the behest of Margot Robbie, who went, I don't like it. Why would she write that on her own face?
And that's the thing is, like, I get having Joker references, because obviously the character is inherently tied and manipulated by the Joker and stuff, but it's like, just, especially that Joker, remove references of that Joker. Like, step away from that Jared Leto joke. You don't want to be associated with it.
Yeah, and we say here that in March 2021, Ann Sarnoff, the then chairman and CEO of Warner Bros., said the company has no intentions to release Ayer's cut of the film. He responded to her comments on Twitter, asking simply, why? And this is why I don't like it, and I don't want to do it, because it's that thing of you're weaponizing a very vocal, vitriolic, and, well, let's be honest here, not very pleasant part of the fan base. Mm-hmm. And you're effectively you are setting them on people, and it's like Zack Snyder can say, oh, they raise money for charities and stuff like that, but I have seen the other side of every single time like James Gunn releases anything. It's like your movie's shit, bring Snyder back.
Mm-hmm.
It's like you don't embolden like the worst aspects of your fan base. Like I say, it completely puts me off talking about of interacting with those movies in that world.
Yeah, and like, why are we sitting there going like, let's get a 4 out of 10 movie, have a different cut? Like, why are we not sitting here going, release Batgirl?
Yeah, that's the thing. There's like a full movie that's never got in. I want to see that because I want to know how bad it really is. That's the thing.
Well,
isn't that the mystery though? Of like how bad
might
could
not
it
have been bad.
Be? Could it be worse than the Suicide? Like they released Suicide Squad.
It apparently, you know, the rumors are that it was more a tax thing and a taking over and cleaning the slate from an executive point of view.
It's great in it. It
wasn't necessarily anything to do with the quality of Batgirl.
It's great that you can just write, like, you know, just dump a $200 million movie down the toilet to save taxes.
Yeah.
And not paying residuals. But yeah,
I think, you know, we want to see that Batgirl movie because it's not necessarily going to be a bad film. I would be excited to go see it.
I would. I just want to know. I want to see the train wreck. Like, how much worse could it possibly be? But just some numbers now, Lucas. So keep in mind as well that this film is an Academy Award-winning film as well for
Oscar-winning. The Oscar-winning movie that is Suicide
It won an Oscar
Squad.
for Best Makeup, but its budget was $175 million, and its box office return was $747 million. So it was a financial success. Then we have the Suicide Squad film that came out in 2021, James Gunn's sequel. Budget $185 million, box office $168.
Which is really good compared to The Flash.
That's the thing as well. The Flash makes everything look better. But I feel so bad because it's just a better film. It's just more fun. Like the action's better, the characters are better, the story is much more like fun and engaging. He has like a fun villain because it's Starro. It's like, yeah, I want to see Starro. Let's fucking go.
And Peter Capaldi, I can't remember that.
Yeah, he's in the thing as well. He's like a big old villain, like Starro the Conqueror. Like I said, Ratcatcher is like phenomenal. Like all the actors are incredible. Like it led to Peacemaker, which is a fucking fantastic show.
They made like quite a bad branding decision and marketing decision with like it being called The Suicide Squad and like not disassociating itself as closely and like bringing back a lot of the characters and actors from the first one. A lot of people just thought, oh, the same shit as the first one and just weren't interested.
And I think that just speaks to like the level, like, you know, the amount of salt that has been put into the earth as a result of like, you know, the back-to-back bombs. Not even bombs, but, you know, the back-to-back just meh. Like the mid-ass movies, that word. It's like, you know, the Batman vs. Superman Suicide Squad. Like the amount of damage they did to that brand is almost irreparable. Like
Birds of Prey, even with Margot Robbie's Harley Quinn being like the highlight of the movie, like no one went and saw that movie.
I didn't give a shit because I was thinking, like, I don't care.
And it was named something terrible to begin with.
Yeah, the Fantabulous Emancipation of Harley. The only reason I went to see the new one is because I basically saw a review where they went, it has some of the same characters, it doesn't reference the original at all. And it's like, oh, thank God, I'll go watch that then.
Yeah.
And it's a shame. Like, imagine like that being the selling point of your film, like, your sequel of like it's a sequel that ignores everything in the previous movie. Like, oh, thank God.
Yeah.
Imagine that. Like, what person? But we could speak about this till the cows come home, and we probably will. And we just might talk about it more if we cover the Fantabulous Emancipation of Harley Quinn or the Batman vs Superman movie on another episode of Wiki Weekends. If you like to see that, why not like, comment, subscribe so you see new videos when they come out every week. Also, like, watch Peacemaker.
Oh, well.
He's so good. Mate, just some of the like Vigilante is such a good character in actually. Just again this random nobody just called the Vigilante, and his whole shtick is just like I just shoot people.
What? Fuck it. Cut off all his toes. I don't care.
It literally, it's like all the HBO stuff is on like Now TV, which I don't subscribe to.
It might be worth just going just to watch it, like start to finish.
I think I need to just like get that for a couple of months and go watch all the content. I've been like Last of Us, I haven't watched yet and stuff.
Yeah.
But there's so many like HBO things that I've just been putting off, and things associated with that. They're all Now TV that I don't have.
Just or at the very least, just to see if you want to be sold on it. Go just after this. Go Google the scene where Peacekeeper draws an eagle on his gun. And if you are not sold on the tone from that 1 minute clip, don't bother. Like I said, it might be the best delivered fuck I've seen in a film in a while. And I've watched all of Samuel L. Jackson's movies. So that is high praise.
I don't think I need to be sold past the eating a beach of dicks, to be honest.
So that's in the movie. I think there was a bunch of stuff that was improvised. Let me just double check. Like there was a line that John Cena improvised, and everyone's like, for fuck's sake. It's one of the funniest things in the film, and it was just John Cena doing it. And you know what? I'll figure out what it is during the edit, and I'll put the clip in now. Cheers, everybody.
I didn't mean to put your father in prison.
Then why'd you put him there, you fat fuck?
Because I couldn't think of anybody else.
What about Ariana Grande or Drake?
What?
Brad Pitt or Payne Stewart or Doug the Pug? Khloe Kardashian, the Red Tiger from Voltron, Fran Tarkenton, Joe Montana, Joe Montana, Eddie Murphy, Michael Jordan, Michael B. Jordan, BTS, Eugene Levy,
fuck dude,
John Lovitz. Shut the fuck up and listen, man. I'm giving you a list of people you could have done. Danny DeVito.